India's fast and famous aviation sector. Raj worked with Amazon, GE, and Hindustan Lever, Ford, and HSBC, and so on. Raj has 2 decades of experience in HR, various dimensional HR role he played. Raj also, I'm a board member of current NHRD. I would like to call upon sir, welcome again, please. Raj will be the moderator of this session. Next, Mr. Sujit Kumar. I think you would have known this person known by everybody. And Sujit has around 20 years of experience in HR, in all gambit of HR, and currently is a AVP, HR Business Partner Organization in Infosys. You could have seen Sujit lot of his videos in Kalyana Malai, and a lot of videos he has done, and he's very famous in Tamil Nadu, I could say. And Sujit also run a NGO called Matram. So they'll give education to the underprivileged children. Thank you, Sujit. Thanks for coming. And Belinda done a lot of HR role in recruitment, employee relation, and other number of HR. Thank you, Belinda. Welcome once again. And the final speaker of the day, Mr. Sanjay Sinde. Sanjay, around about 20 years of experience in HR, and he is currently working as Associate Director HR in Flipkart. And Sanjay is alumni of TILS and IIM Kolkata. Thank you. This session definitely going to be very interesting. The different dimension of employee relation and industry relation, what you have seen in the morning session. Thank you. Over to Raj. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vijay. Thanks for the nice introduction. I have the onerous task of moderating the very last session of the evening before we start hitting the bar and dancing. And I'm also surrounded by two very eminent people, one YouTuber and another television, personality. So I'm kind of somewhat intimidated. But that said, we have had a great day today. And Inba, thank you so much for pulling this together so very well. From the very beginning of when we were planning, when we met as a board in Bangalore to what it is today. Kudos to you, kudos to Mr. Murthy, kudos to all of you who have done such a phenomenal job pulling this together. And as Inba said, by moving to cities like Hosur, Coimbatore, Bhubaneswar, and those kind of places, NHRD and the HR fraternity are going to benefit a lot. And we had interesting sessions, starting from the one that Raj Narayan facilitated before lunch. You were there in it. A lot of heated discussions. Harbhajan Paji is a good friend of mine, and he had some really blunt conversations to have. And thereafter, we had this interesting session on generational as well as international understanding of things. And as I was sitting there with Belinda, I was telling myself, it's all about perspectives, Mr. Watson, and whether a lot of those perspectives are reflective of India as a culture, or the industry that they were in, or the company they were associated with, is something you can debate over dinner tonight. And so this is the culmination of some really good discussions and panels we have had. So the discussion we are going to have today, this evening, about 60 minutes, I guess, give or take 5 or 10 minutes here or there, is about employee relations in IT, services, and all the non-manufacturing sectors, to be precise. Now, there has always been this doubt whether the industry is missing a link towards positive employee relations. And by that I mean, you see a lot of news, and today WhatsApp is probably more popular than the most popular television channel, right? And then when you see someone getting fired and the WhatsApp video is all over, you feel sorry for the person who is actually doing the job, because probably the person was not even trained enough to do what they need to do. And then you're talking about 600 jobs lost, 800 jobs lost, this startup is closing down, that startup is closing down. On the same page, you're also seeing there's another startup that just got a funding of $100 million or something from Japan. So it's actually like a paradox. So much of a paradox that if you were to imagine half your body is in deep freeze and the rest of your body is in hot tawa, on an average you're comfortable. So that kind of paradox is something we haven't seen in many years. Then I started my career with Unilever. This was way back in 1989. There was this legendary HR director for Brook Bond Lipton. His name is R.R. Nair. Probably a lot of people here from Bangalore know him. And he explained, employee relations. Those days, we never used the word employee relations. We just used connecting with people, which was probably an easier way to understand. He explained it very, very simply. He basically said, Raj, imagine a triangle. One end of the triangle has the employee, the other end of the triangle has the management, and the top end of the triangle has the union. And he said the employee has a very strong line going to the union, and the union has a very strong line going to the management. And the line between the management and the employee is actually a dotted line. And he said, if we can fix this, then we fix all the issues related to trust, the deficit of trust, and related to productivity, related to openness, related to having not an opaque discussion, but beyond it. I thought that was very interesting. And then you come into services industry and you talk about job losses and all that is happening. So one of the theories that I have is competencies are changing. A lot of competencies that we all grew up with many years ago are not competencies anymore. For example, I remember when I was in GE and one of our software units, we would hire anybody that could actually spell Oracle properly. And we would actually hire anyone that could not even spell Oracle properly because we would say we will train them. After all, it's about how do you spell it. And then you go back to competencies, right? I don't know how many of you grew up at a time when you had to queue up in a ration shop to go buy your kerosene and all your groceries. I mean, there were several of us, and I don't know how many of us are sitting in this room here. Can by show of hands, how many of you have visited a ration shop? So that's a lot of you. That's a lot of us, and me included. So when I was growing up in Chennai, my brother and I, our core competence was going to the ration shop. And this was called TUCS Limited. And for some reason, Triplicane Urban Cooperative Society. And then you go queue up at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and by 10 o'clock you get a coupon, and about 3 o'clock in the afternoon you get two bottles of kerosene or whatever, and you come home. And this was going very well. My mother would love us, and we would get a special treat of kesari or whatever after we bought all this. Suddenly life changed for both my brother and I. The gas stove started coming in. And when the gas stove started coming in, there was no need for kerosene. So my core competency of queuing up for kerosene was almost eroded because gas was there. Then we found a new core competence. How do you change the cylinder? Now, changing the cylinder was a huge, huge competency, right? For a longest time, even after I got married, I mean, the only utility I had at home with my wife was changing the cylinder for her. And about 15 years ago, at least I'm talking about the US, and about 10 years ago in India, even that changed. Because gas, those cylinder gases went away, and you started getting, your cooking gas through pipes. So how do you relearn, and what do you learn? Now my only competency is to talk. So I'm saying, okay, let's do this as long as we can do this kind of thing. And as we talk of this subject, and we are going to be specifically talking about services, and we have a fantastic panel here. So we have a Flipkart, we have a HP, we have Infosys. I'm not naming these people with names, but the companies you identify with. And I don't quite identify, what he does for a living, but that we will have going and asking in just about a second's time. So the way I'm going to do this is for us to have some quick discussion for about 30 minutes and keep about 30 minutes open for questions. And I want to start with you, Belinda. Now, one of the issues that you keep hearing in services industry, especially in IT services, is, do employers understand the expectations of employees? And there are generations of people. There are there are 20-year-olds, there are 45-year-olds, there are 50-year-olds. So what do they expect? So what do such generations expect from positive employee relations, if I may?
Thank you so much for that question. I think it's very valid in IT industry right now, and I'm purely from IT industry. So, all my career I've worked for IT and services industry. So, there it is not like before, right? Initially, the average age of people in the industry was around 45, 50, and but with the IT industry, it's an average of 35 to 40, and we have new generation of people coming in every time. So we have Gen X people, we have Gen Y people, we have millennials, we have now baby boomers. The way they look at things is very, very different. The environment that we are in is very, very different. The client needs are very different. So we need to balance everything together. And you brought a very valid point, right? The growth mindset. I think we need to change. People have to constantly equip themselves and skill themselves. That's a challenge in one sector of people. That's not a challenge in the other sector of people. Now we need to bridge the gap. And we at Employee Relations or Human Resources have to really understand the needs. And the needs is very, very different for different people because of the cultural background, because of the experience they come from. It could be because of the services platform that they're servicing. It could be because they are in an R&D division. They don't understand what services industry does, right? They expect the other industry or the other function to understand them better. So there's a lot of, I think we need to do a lot of learning. We need to do a lot of unlearning for certain category of people, and we need to do a lot of learning for certain category of people. I think that's a major challenge. But if I don't see that as a generation, and if I see that only as what is really needed of people, I'm not calling them employees, I'm calling them people, because they all have the same expectation. One is they want to be trusted. We need to have a trusted relationship. That's something very, very important. I think they are looking for job stability, their career. What is it in for me, right? Is my employers caring about me? Are they showing me the attention? Are they giving me the attention? Apart from the monetary stuffs, they want to see that, is my company doing enough for me so that I'm always skilled enough to get redeployed in the industry, in any industry. So care is one, attention is one that they're seeking, and I think they are also seeking something beyond, monetary stuff, which is something personal. Are they personally connected to me? You know, for all this, I wouldn't say HR is the only person who's going to do stuff, because it's impossible just with 100 HRs doing catering to around 50,000 or 60,000 people or even a lakh. That's not going to be possible. But managers become the face of HR, right? They are the first level. So it's very challenging there to bring the change in them. So we work as a change catalyst. I think that's the most important stuff that we deal with currently.
Phenomenally well said. And as you were talking through all this, Belinda, I was hoping my father was sitting somewhere here. He retired as a professor in IIT Madras many years ago. And when I went to Madras School of Social Work to study personnel management, as what they would call those days, he was really worried for me. He said, "Who will hire you, Raj? What kind of skills does this teach?" And after about 4 months of my course, he came in and said, "Well, why do you have to study for 2 years to be a personal secretary?" I said, "No, Dad, this is a different thing." And then, Unilever hired me, and he said, "Oh, not bad, you got employed." So, from there on to, you're talking almost like, we'll all walk on water, right? I mean, such kind of fantastic skills, and thanks so much for elucidating this so very well. I have Sanjay. Sanjay has been a hardcore manufacturing HR professional most of his career. For the last year or so, he's been with Flipkart. And in Flipkart, he has a very interesting role. He leads HR for all of those people that deliver packages in your house and that work in the warehouses. So, and about 90% of them are contractual workers. And this must be quite a daunting task for you, Sanjay. So my question to you is, how do you manage expectations of contractual workforce, who will have a job today, 3 months later they will not have, 6 months later they'll have. How do you manage it in a way that you avoid industrial relations kind of challenges?
So e-commerce is, if you look at it's a unique industry. I mean, it's a combination of IT and logistics particularly. when again, if you look at logistics, logistics is combination of manufacturing and service industry. So employees working in warehousing, no warehouses, are actually as good as shop floor workers, and people who are delivering shipments to the customer are representing service industry. Now this industry still it's in a initial stage. Also demands a lot of flexibility. Like you guys know that when there is a sale, there's a sudden demand of huge manpower, and when the sale is over, there's no demand. So we have to ramp up people when there's a demand. We have to ramp down people when the need is over. Managing expectation in such scenario is very difficult. What we do and what is needed and what helps us actually reducing our industry relations issues is connecting and constantly connecting with our people. So we have a lot of connect programs. We communicate and over communicate. That is very important. Now when we communicate, we are very clear in our communication. 90% people, like Raj rightly mentioned, that 90% people are contractual employees, and contractor bring them to us. They are deployed in our premises. We do not know what kind of commitment the contractor has given to them. So for us, we also have our own induction program for them, and we communicate all the terms and conditions very clearly, and we keep on communicating. We try and give them a good experience, employee experience. Generally, employee experience, when we talk, it is associated with your on-roll and permanent employees. Our strength is off-roll employees. We give them very good experience. We give them good benefits, and benefits kind of like all our off-roll guys get free food. Okay, they get free transportation. They get free, not free, but life insurance cover. So generally and even the personal accident cover. So very few organizations generally extend these kind of benefits to contractual employees. But that is very important to this is very important to mitigate your risk, because the moment you are dehiring them, and there can be any kind of IR situation you may have to face. Union can come, politicians can come. So it's very important to give them good benefits. Third is we keep them recognizing, through our rewards and recognition program. So there are a lot of recognition programs we run for the contractual employees. In fact, when the biggest event happens, we call it BBD, which is generally during Diwali, and Amazon also has the Great Indian Sale. There's a by default 5% of people are rewarded every day. That's a mandate given to all the operations managers. We also do a lot of sensitivity training to our ops guys, because dealing with contractual labors on shop floor, people have a different tendency to deal with. I mean, so we try and drive culture of respect. So even if he is a contractual employee, he needs to be respected. He needs to be felt that he is valued. And I think that's how we connect very not only it's not only contractual obligation, but we also have people connect with the contractual employees emotionally, and that's how we, I think, try and manage our industrial relations.
No, thank you, Sanjay. I think it's not easy to explain in just 3 minutes time, and I gave you not a whole lot of time. But I'm sure in all of this, respect for human beings and being fair and transparent are very important things. There's also an ethical question in terms of, at least for those of us in the old school, how long will you have people being on contracts, and is that being exploitative or whatever? And we can talk about those questions even as we progress in the next a few minutes that we have left. Sujit, you have a very interesting background. You're a full-time social worker and a part-time HR manager in Infosys now. Shankar is not here, but Sujit has some phenomenal things that he does, and I just got to know him this afternoon as we talked, and the stuff that he does with women, especially in the area of education, and with people that don't have the economic capability to go and do education is phenomenal, and you should probably spend some time with them after this session is over. Sujit, the question I have for you is, you heard both of us, both of them, you heard me speak as well. What do you think is the missing link?
Okay, before I get to the topic, just a quick 10-second a word of appreciation. We have heard so much about the Hosur chapter. I think the Director General of NHRD is here, and I was a chapter president of NHRD in Chennai. I think today we are getting to see this in action. So I just want to place and record, in my knowledge, this is probably the best chapter across the country. Okay, and you call it whatever time. Because it's not easy to run a chapter in a small city like this when the top cities like Chennai, Bangalore, Delhi, we all have our ups and downs. I think the team cohesiveness is by far the best. Thank you all, Murthy, the current president, past president, all the presidents who are sitting here. Just want to place on record the phenomenal work that you do, and we truly, truly admire you guys. Okay, if we can clone Hosur chapter into other other cities, I think NHRD will be by far the largest organization. To your question, Raj, on what is a missing link, there are quite a few, which I see in my opinion. The first thing first, in IT industry, one of the most abused word is something called as employee engagement. We have literally called everything under the umbrella as employee engagement, and hoping that employees will understand. The only thing we have not done in IT industry, we have not delivered milk at the doorsteps. Otherwise, we have delivered newspaper in the bus to whatever, right? Crazy stuff. And we all believe that we retain employees. Unfortunately, the sad reality is employees decide to stay with us as long as they feel engaged. So I think the single largest missing link that I see is what do you call as core engagement? Now, engagement is not doing this fun-filled activities. Every Thursday I will do, every Friday I will do that. That's not what engagement is all about. Meaningful engagement. I'm sure we will dwell a little deeper into that topic. That's number one. Number two, I think our first panelist mentioned about this the 4 generations. It's not about one generation against other generation. The biggest challenge is about 4 generations working together in the same organization, and one generation which decides on policy which impacts the larger generation, which is the younger generation in the organization. For example, I hope this video will not come out. Anyway, my boss is not here, Krish Shankar is not here. We had a very strange rule in Infosys that you need to wear a tie on a Monday and Tuesday. Now imagine wearing a tie in Bangalore is fine, but Chennai at 43 degrees Celsius. If you have to wear a tie, in Tamil there is a saying called Kodaikanal Kudure Mekira Mari Irukon, right? Now for some of the friends who don't understand, please get this translated. When mercury is railing at 43 degrees, the baby boomers never had an issue because they were like policy custodian. If it is there in the policy, they will adhere to it, come what may. And then there is another generation which came, which is called Gen X. In my view, that's a generation which never had a point of view. Okay, they were neither baby boomers nor Gen Y. They were mere order takers. So if I tell my Gen X guy saying, okay, go and jump to the 4th cross street, there is an empty well, jump there, he will jump and call me, sir, I've done, what should I do next? So he also never had a problem. But then the Gen Y really had a problem. He started questioning. I'm giving you a very simple example. He started questioning, how does productivity and wearing this tie makes a difference? The weather is at 43 degrees Celsius, doesn't make any sense at all. For us to even act on it, right, to go and tell our baby boomer boss, look, it doesn't make sense, took a lot of effort. Finally, we got a CEO who did not like to wear a tie. And then the tie rule went off. So the largest challenge we see in the organizations today is about how do I bring together this 4th generation. For the first time in Infosys and many other organizations, we are seeing father and son working in the same organization, which is never heard of. The average age still rallies around 24 to 26 in many places. So it's about working with this 4th generation, which is the second missing link that I see. Third, communication. Either we do excess communication or we don't do communication at all. Either we say everything that is which is not required to an employee, what matters really matters, that this time you're not going to get a comp hike. Okay, it's a very simple communication, but the way we sugarcoat it, you know what, this because of the business challenges and the the random digitized programming, guy is confused. He said, boss, tell me, am I getting it or not? Now, keeping it simple is something which we in HR we have overcomplicated. And I have taken a new role today in my organization. I head internal communication. So one of the mandate that we have in our organization is, can we put it in simple, plain vanilla stuff? That's all that this generation is simply expecting. Don't beat around the bush. Tell me what it is. 4, everybody wants to get recognized. And unfortunately, the appreciation culture doesn't come to us very naturally. We expect our employee to launch a rocket to go and say, job well done, because managers still believe that if I appreciate very frequently, he is bringing that all the appreciation during the appraisal time. Even giving me 7 appreciations, you cannot give me a poor rating kind of a stuff. But appreciation becomes meaningless when it is not spontaneous and when it is not tailor-made to this individual. I'm just giving you an example. Let's say I'll pull some fast ones. Israel is here. Let's say Israel Inbaraj is winning the employee of the month. Okay, now he would want to get recognized in front of 5,000 people, right? Even if you're giving him a 50 rupee water bottle, gift wrapped nicely, it doesn't matter, but he as a personality would want to get recognized in front of a large audience. Let's say Murthy on the contrary is exactly the opposite. He says, boss, I don't need this 50 rupee dappa, I don't need 5,000 people, etc. All you do is just credit 5,000 rupees in my account and just get lost. Okay, that is what R&R to me. But whereas the third person is there and he says, neither do I need the 50 rupee box in front of 5,000 people, neither do I need your 5,000 rupees off. Just give me one extra day off over a Friday where I can spend some time with the family. I think small organizations are getting this puzzle, they're cracking it. They are making this R&R program also tailor-made to individuals, whereby you bring in flexibility in your policies. Who are these policies for? Policy is not for the policy custodians. Policy is for the employees. And I strongly believe that any generation which follows another generation is a smarter generation than the previous generation. And our managers need to understand that. And I as a manager need to understand that I have smart young people working for me. I'm responsible for their aspirations. And finally, the last point, we don't call a spade a spade. For example, in the IT industry, one of the biggest catchment area was that you promise an on-site assignment. You come join us 2 months, you will be in America. Then you will buy a house, you will become a green card holder, you will have 2 children who are American citizens, and that used to be the buzzword. And anybody who works in an IT organization after 2 years, if they're not in the US, then there's something seriously wrong. Gone are the days that this IT going abroad and all this stuff, it's dwindling down. But unfortunately, we are not calling it out to our employees, saying your aspiration of going on site is there, but it's not going to be for every Tom, Dick and Harry in the organization. The career architecture is changing. The learning horizon, I think that she brought it out beautifully. Reskilling is the single largest missing link. Today, employees are believing, why should I reskill? If you don't reskill, you don't exist in this industry anymore. Any technology that we are talking about doesn't exist beyond 6 months to 1 year. And if you have to reskill, these are things that we are not articulating well, Raj. So I think those are the four, 5 points that I want to give it as my opening comments.
Phenomenally well said, Sujit. Extremely well put, and I think a lot of points that you made make absolute sense, especially the one about ties and all of that. I don't know if you have ever sold a vacuum cleaner wearing a tie at 45 degrees Celsius in May in Chennai. I have done that, and it's not easy. So I still remember there was a time when, one thing is, this was before my master's days, okay? So you not only sold vacuum cleaners, but you also have to collect. And selling is easy because people just take it. But collecting money is very difficult. So there was once this very famous singer, I won't name him, very, very famous, I love his voice. He never paid up. And then, my boss and I went, and he said, we need to go well dressed. And it was the month of May, and, we were in tie, and he made us stand outside, and we were sweating like pigs. And we went there inside, and we said, sir, you need to pay 3,900 rupees for the vacuum cleaner. He said, so for those of you that didn't understand, we'll translate that later. But those are tough things, right? And including what Inba wants for recognition. But Inba doesn't need 5,000 people. 50,000 people come to him. So I call him the MGR of Hosur, or Rajinikanth, whatever that is, right? So no, he asked me to say all this. I have to tell him. Otherwise, So he's told me, Raj, next time we are doing a Tamil conference, you need to come. So appuram koopidam poitarna kashtam, so. But so Anand, you are the odd ball here, right? But you have some really interesting take on several things. The first conversation I had with Anand was how much Indigo sucks, and I had to basically tell him, boss, I'm employed there. I have 40,000 people that are employed there. I don't want to feel so bad that I want to leave just after speaking with you. But, he's someone that says things in exactly the same way that you like to hear. So, Anand, my question to you is, we keep hearing about, do employees understand employers? Do employers understand employees? What is the problem?
Well, I have a take on that. I think Inbab called me because he saw my YouTube videos on this because there was a industrial relations problem, as you would politely put it, in the city of Madras for Cognizant or some such company. But I look at it this way as an outsider. I'm a complete outsider. So I've never worked in a corporate, so I don't know what is HR. So I had to motivate myself, and so I have to look for the bread myself every day evening. So there's no salary or there's no 31st of the month and nobody engaging with me and all that. So all this looks strange to me. Anyway, the way I look at it as an investor is the services industry is a pyramid structure. I look at it as a great pyramid where you get in about 4 lakh, 5 lakh kids every year. You put them at the bottom of the pyramid and everybody is very happy. And then the pyramid keeps on getting narrow at the top, and very soon a lot of people have to be thrown out of the hopper or whatever you call it, the roller coaster. And also another thing that has happened over the last 25 years I've seen, because I passed out in 90 when the IT industry started. I was one of the first programmers. I did Unix and structured COBOL. So the first thing is, half of my class in DAV went to IIT. So you guys had guys out of IIT going to Infosys or TCS. TCS had a campus just outside my school in Gopalapuram those days. So, but today, what the kind of kids you are recruiting are from tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 cities or even from villages. I'm sure a Nandan or a Ramadurai will or a Fakir Chand Kohli, FC Kohli will not go join Infi or TCS today. There are more exciting things. He'll be talking of a fintech company or an investment banking, and so the brightest and the best of talent is not coming to IT anymore. I don't think the Sachins will go to work for Flipkart anymore. So that is one thing. So when this kind of thing happens, imagine a guy who comes from a remote village, who cannot even afford 2 square meals. He's gone through engineering college, he's struggled his way through, and he lands a job in Infi, and he's heard of Narayan Murthy, Sudha Murthy, Nandan Nalkini and all that. He thinks he has arrived. That's it. I get to a point, I'm sitting in an AC room, I'm working from morning to evening. I have worked very hard. I passed the exams. How I passed the exams is not important. How I mucked up, I did what is not. It's the job of Infosys to send me to Mysore, train me, and put me on a job. That's a huge culture shock. And I work with most kids because kids keep contacting me through mail. Most of them don't want to learn after engineering college. They passed engineering, that's it. That's the last books they want to study. In fact, it became very controversial when one of the YouTubes, when I said that most people don't know Cunningham and Ritchie, and they think Balagurusamy is the founder of C, which is very sad. That's a reflection on our education system. So what happens when you do all this is people become unidimensional in their skilling. Somebody who works on an IBM mainframe is going to work on an IBM mainframe all the time. He does not know. Somebody who works on a SAP application is working on a SAP application forever. They don't do basic programming, coding. All that does not exist in your service industry anymore. So what happens is they've stopped learning. You have skilled them in one particular area. They do the same job repeatedly. If you are doing payroll, you keep doing payroll again and again. That's it. David Epstein wrote a book recently called Range, in which he compared Roger Federer with Tiger Woods. But I think it would be more apt to compare him with Tendulkar versus Dhoni. You guys are trying to make Tendulkars. But Tendulkar, not everybody is going to be a Tendulkar, but Tendulkar is the role model. They do one thing and they do one thing right through. And suddenly, when your client does not want that kind of Tendulkar anymore, you just send him out and try to bring the other guy to train another guy with whatever he's trained in. Somebody wants, instead of IBM mainframe, you want a Java programmer, you go bring a Java programmer. So that empathy between you and what the new guy wants is completely lost. There is no attempt. There were some attempts in some large companies to reskill and re-coach and all that. But there is no, like Sujit says, delivering a newspaper and delivering everything is great. But nobody has told him the honest truth. But this is a pyramid. You're not going to be there forever. This is not job guarantee. 4-5 years, you learn 4-5 things better. You get to hop on to the next bus and get moving. Because not everybody is going to be the CEO of TCS or the highest level and you will burn out quickly if you don't jump the ship and keep hopping. So I think that from outside, I've always looked at HR as a staff function. But I think you should treat it's more like a business function because I have to sell every day to survive. I have to sell myself. So there are two terminologies in sales. We have customers, we have clients. A customer is a Balika Bakla who comes once, you cut the goat, you eat him, that's it, finished. He is not going to come back to you again. But a client is a person with whom you build a lifetime contract. So there are times when you go out of the way to handle a client. I think you guys should be looking at your wards as a client, because even after 5-6 years, he leaves the company and goes away. He can be a great brand ambassador for your company. I won't name the two banks. There are two big banks in India, one which has remarkably done well and which is the costliest bank in the world. And there's another bank which started better, had a superstar CEO, which has just fallen off on the wayside over the period of time. If you interview both the ex-bankers on both these banks, the kids, I'm not talking of the big managers and all that, the superstar person's banker, none of these guys will have good experience of the company or the bank. They'll curse the bank. You don't see the other one, which is doing the costliest bank. Not, I'm sure some people will complain, but I'm not saying the overall feedback is better. So there was somewhere along the way, the HR on the other side would have done slightly better. So you should be looking at building, making global, making them your ambassadors, preparing them for a point when they are going to leave the company. Because there is no way as a person who is going to join Infi is going to retire at Infi today. That's not going to happen, or at TCS or somewhere else. My father changed 3 jobs, but I'm sure that my nephew or niece will change 10 jobs if they take a career. So we have to recognize the fact that there is no lifetime employment. The other thing that has to be taught is that there is no happily ever after again. You got in, you have to work your balls off. And this thinking of rising protectionism, they're going to labor officers, hoping that they will save them, all is not going to happen. India missed the manufacturing boom because of those labor officers. If you guys don't shape up and stop this nip it at the bud, the services industry will also say bye-bye to India. Because in 91, when we opened up the economy, from an investor's perspective, we didn't have a consensus to reform labor laws. And so what Dr. Singh did is he just bypassed labor and then he just went into services. By services, I mean software, telecom, hotel, insurance, banking, and that's what has absorbed all these people, jobs over 25 years. Manufacturing has created nothing. You can show the auto at me, but on a car manufactured, only 4% of that is labor. And that's not going to employ the millions of people who are going to come out of demographic dividend. So you have a great responsibility to teach these kids that you have not arrived. This is the first step.
Yeah.
திருப்பதி மலை ஏறச்சே இதுக்கு முழங்கால் முடிச்சுன்னு ஒரு இடம் சொல்லுவாங்க, காளிகோபுரம்னு. சார் நீங்க காளிகோபுரம் தான் வந்திருக்கீங்க, திருப்பதிக்கு ஏறுறதுக்கு ரொம்ப தூரம் இருக்குங்கிறத நீங்க புரிய வைக்கணுங்கிறது தான் என்னோட கருத்து.
No, well said. Absolutely well said. And I think the perspectives, I let for them to applaud for you. I think the perspectives each of you had, Belinda, Sanjay sir, Sajid, and you are all absolutely well said. And I especially, liked the millennial example that you gave of how we think millennials are going to learn the same way that we learn. Like, for example, my 15-year-old son, I was once telling him that, Hriday, when we were small, we all lived in a one-hall kitchen housing, and we all walked to school, and we had one pair of shoes, and we got only new dress once every year for Diwali. And then he looked at me and he said, so sorry for you, Dad. Did you eat every day or you ate once every alternate day? And then I said, okay, so there I should stop lecturing. So the thing is, lecture doesn't work, training doesn't work, showing movies doesn't work, new laws doesn't work. What works? And that's what I think we all will be gainfully employed by. One thing I'm very happy is HR as a profession is here to stay. because, you know, we'll all be well employed with all this confusion going on around us. And we'll still be, you know, be there to talk about all our exploit many, many years to come. Let me do this. Let me shift gears a little bit. Instead of asking questions to each of you, why don't I open it up for you all? Why don't we take a few questions from you, and then I'll come back to my prepared questions. Is that okay?
Yes.
Right. So then you will not go home.
So, good evening. My name is Indrajit. I am from Gabriel India Limited. My question is to Sojit sir. You mentioned about the employee engagement and how it should be meaningful employee engagement rather than celebrations and all. And I wanted to, and you said that you are going to dwell deeper into that. So if you can dwell a little deeper into what exactly meaningful engagement is. Thank you.
A very simple question. I said, define work. What does work means to you? And the managers were also there. The managers started saying, it's the identity, the Infosys pride, the brand, and all this stuff. So one guy stood up and he said, work is something which comes in between weekends. Wow. He said, for me, work is something which comes in between weekends. Now, to me, engaging this guy is all the more critical because that's a generation which comes into my organization in large numbers. 70% of my workforce is millennials and Gen Z workforce, which do not have the same brand consciousness like what Anand sir mentioned, that I am an Infosys product, I work for Infosys, I work for Cognizant. For them, it is just transition at that particular point in time. So engagement, while I'm saying this fun, frolic is all is required for team bonding and all this stuff, the core of engagement is, why am I doing what I'm doing? That has to be articulated. Why is this work so very critical, and how does it impact the end customer value? I don't think that is something that we do very well in many organizations, and it is not just a job of HR. And that's where I say any successful organization in the world where you find very high engagement score, you find that the line managers play a very critical function. HR is just a facilitator. The line function has to play a critical role. This is one of my very favorite example of what does this end value articulation is all about. So in Infosys, we have something called as awards for excellence. Like many of your organization, you'll have this prestigious awards, and in about 2 lakh odd employees, about 300 people get this award. It's like the Oscars for us, right? So I remember about 10 to 12 years back, this award function was happening, and I don't want to name the client. It was an airline manufacturer, and 4 employees from Chennai won the award out of the total 7. One was a vice president, so I was asked to interview them for a newsletter. So I went and asked this particular person, the vice president, saying, what does this award means to you? And he said, I worked for this company for 17 long years. It took me 17 years to win this award, right? So he attributed to the amount of years that he has put in. Then the second project manager, he said, I'm an Apple fan, and look at what the award is. I'm getting an Apple iPod. Those days we got the Apple iPod. He was articulating to the material value that he was getting. And then I had a 2-year experienced girl from Salem, just fresh out of college, 2-year experienced girl from Salem. She used to help me with all the fun events that I used to organize. And I asked her, this is brilliant. I've never seen somebody winning an award in 2 years. So what does this award means to you? And she looked into me and she said, Anna, can I ask you a question? I said, please go on. I said, do you fly? How often do you take a aircraft? And I said, at least once a week minimum. For my lectures, I do travel. And she said, whenever you take an aircraft, do you have a habit of saying a word of prayer? Normally you do, right? Let's say me and Raj are going in an aircraft, even if it's an Indigo airline. Just when the flight is about to take off, you just give a jerk, right? You hope that the pilot did not have an extra beer last night, okay? And I hope, he's sensible. And that word of prayer always comes up when the flight takes off and lands. And I said, yes, I do. And then she looked at me and she said, you asked me about what does this award means to me. Now she said, why this award is so prestigious is that safety protocol in the cockpit, the software program which governs the takeoff and landing of this aircraft was written by me, right? And that is what this award means to me. So you look at the way she's articulating her work as against a vice president or the manager. Now to me, that employee is a very engaged employee because she will know what she is doing, why she is doing what she is doing. Very often, many of our employees have absolutely no clue on why they're coming to office and what they're doing. They know there is a system in front, okay, and IT is that way is one of the most abused world. And I know a lot of you guys are from the manufacturing sector. come to IT organizations on Monday morning, that's the day when you have maximum number of lives which is getting recorded, because we have something called as work from home. Okay, invariably Monday morning will be like a funeral home, right? Nobody will be laughing at each other. They'll be just dragging themselves off. And you should look at the weird reason. Father fell down for the 7th time. Grandmother died for the 8th time. Train puncture. All sort of reasons will come in. Okay, and they are extremely engaged on Thursday and Friday. Saturday is the only day when they are very happy. Not even Sunday. You know the reason? Because Monday is a working day. Now, an engaged workforce does not really think about whether it's a Monday or a Friday, and that comes from the core element which is called work. Make work interesting, make work purposeful. To me, I'm in Infosys, the most engaged guy is the security guard outside. He's my first guy whom I enter when I see him, and he gives me that beautiful smile, and that opens up the day for you. And he know why he has to smile. The security guard job is one of the most toughest job. But to me, the engagement starts from there, my dear friend. So all this fun and frolic is important, but focus on work, the core work. Yeah.
So that was
In the scale of Infosys, how can you apply different strokes for different folks? It's very nice caption to say that you're going to tailor make R&R to suit individuals. How practical it is in the context of the service delivery and the challenges that you have on your plate.
Okay, we have not cracked the puzzle, but here's my take. We always want to call something like central R&R program, or you keep the budget at the central level and then throw money at people. I say empower the line managers, give them the budget and leave it to that guy to tailor make it for his or her respective employees. Now, if I have 20 employees, I decide what I want to do it with that budget for my 20 employees. It's small, it is much more easier. You know people by name, you know what this individual wants. But when you grow larger, for example, today I manage a $4 billion industry vertical within Infosys. Now, I don't see myself as an HR AVP or HR business leader. I see myself as a CHR of that particular organization. My service offering head is a CEO of the cloud and infrastructure. It is a mini IT organization which exists within Infosys. So when you start wearing that hat, you will start working on, okay, now again you are a small organization, you can work around with some of these initiatives. So simple solution, decentralize, make your power centers as your line managers and allow them to make mistakes. You will see wonderful results coming your way. Yep.
Now there's a new proposed code on IR which talks about fixed term employment. Now we have been talking about connecting with the employees and things like that. Now here is going to be a shift wherein employee is going to leave the organization after 2 or 3 years. Whether you are going to connect with him or not, or you are going to build a trust with the employees or not, is not going to. I don't know what to say. So what is the impact that you want to see as a fixed term employment when it comes into effect?
As long as this employee is with you, okay, so if he has taken this employment, he is aware initially that he is taking a fixed term employment. Now, as long as he is with you, how do you engage him? Sujit spoke about engaging employees. How do you make him productive? How do you give him a good experience, I think? And so this, I know before this session we were just discussing, and now this concept is coming. People also want to have many people do not prefer permanent employment. They want to have, this kind of contractual employment. There may be a tax obligation or something else. But as long as people are with you, I think we can engage them, we can make them productive, keep them happy. That's what I feel.
See, as far as this fixed question goes, see, one of the bugbears that has been facing us from 91 is how we get around that Industrial Relations Act. So no government has been able to build a consensus. All of us know that the Industrial Relations Act has to go. Whatever is in the current format has to go. So what they are trying to do is try to work around this, because if somebody remembers what happened in Maruti in Haryana about 2-3 years back, the contract employees and the manager and the fixed employee, the main employees, were doing the same kind of jobs. But the guy who was on the payrolls was making 2 times, 3 times the money that the contract employee was making, and that led to the violence, and some person died also in that. So what this government has done, and all governments will do, is they don't want to, the consensus in India is not yet ready. Dr. Singh told me this. There is no consensus, Anand, I can't change it. So basically and Jairam sir told me that when he says there is no consensus, we cannot change it. So what we are trying to do is saying that for 3 years, that means that labor laws will not appear. But frankly, what I've been articulating inside and what I'm telling outside also, it's high time that the labor laws go. But I am not recommending that it should go overnight. But today it is applicable for more than 10 people. If we employ 10 or more, at least it should be made 500. And only then we can employ. Somebody asked in the previous session how we can employ the people who are coming in. Unless you modify the labor laws. And tomorrow Sitaram is here, so you should ask him this, that he should agree to modify the laws. And only then you can create millions of jobs to the millions of youth who are going to come out.
Sure, sure. Belinda, let me ask you a question and then I'll go back to the audience questions. You manage a workforce across the region. You manage employee relations across the region. Are there things that are very unique to employee engagement in India versus the rest of the Asia-Pac region?
So, okay, I think I should bring the point of cultural nuances, okay? So, engaging an employee in India is very different from, I handle APAC region, complete APAC region, Japan, and I also handle certain countries in Europe. So I can tell you from my experience that handling an employee in India is very, very different from handling an employee in Australia or in Europe. Europe, they don't expect, too much of an employee engagement. They are like very clear about their work. They come, they do their work, they see, and we need to bring in the value add, like what you were saying, Sujit. Bring in the value add to them, tell them that what they are doing, and they're fine with it. But for India, it's very different, and the generations that we see, right? People are not associated with brands anymore, and they want to see what is the sensitivity around a particular engagement. Say, for example, policy. Okay, let me take the classic example of policy. We made policies. Now, in our organization, we try to bring a policy which is around insurance. So, with the changing world, for India, we needed a different insurance policy against that of a policy in Australia or various other countries. So for India, LGBT community, right, living with partners, etc., is kind of getting common right now, and it's kind of recognized by the law as well. So we wanted to, initially we didn't have insurance policy around that. So we wanted to protect their loved ones. So we brought in that coverage for insurance. So for them, that becomes an employee engagement. They see that there is something that the company is doing to understand what I am, and they respect that particular decision. But whereas in Europe, it is like the law is there, so you need to just abide by it. But for India, there's a change. The mindset has to change, and we have to, it's very difficult, right? People come with a particular mindset, right? It's very difficult for us to change that. I think over a period of communication and effective communication, being sensitive to their cultural background, I think if we can communicate that better, I think we will be able to have an engaged workforce.
That makes sense. And in some ways, you're also saying we are kind of high maintenance, and I kind of agree with you. I think we are down to the last 6 minutes, so I'm probably going to take one last question.
Normally the biggest challenge for the HR manager in the IT industry is the employee relation versus attrition. So whatever the engagement activity done, wellness program, MEP award, what you call the diversity, internet job posting, whatever the employee will not done in the organizations, the attrition is more. How to control the attrition in IT industry? One, in the non-IT industry, like in the factory environment, if you pay 1,000 rupees bonus, surprise bonus to the employees, they're very happy. Throughout the year, they will recall that golden memory in their mind. Why it does not happen? Why it is missing in the IT industry, Sujit?
Okay, simple. Employees are employees everywhere, whether it is manufacturing or I worked in Pizza Corner before. Nobody even talks about it, but that's where I learned some of the best employee engagement practices. In fact, my story of coming into Infosys was to deliver. It still works. Now, when you do all this and you keep attrition as your core objective, most often than not, it fails miserably. Now, look at why IT attrition is happening. Now, they know that when I have ABC skills, market commands a premium and they are very quick to move, and that's what I'm saying. Salary is not your top reason. Benefits is not your top reason. It is still a large hygiene factor. The bulk of the major reason is how am I getting treated in this organization? Does the organization value me as a professional? Is there an open culture where I feel valued as a professional? I think that's the crux. Why employees decide to stay. And that's why in my opening comments I say, employees decide to stay with the organization as long as they feel engaged. You can pay him great money, but you treat him like dirt, he's not going to stay with you. Okay? And managers will say, boss, I gave you 30% hike. Why have you not stayed? Because you're not treating me well. You're not making me valued as a professional. So whether it is HR or it is business, I think that is rule number one. Treat your employees well, make them feel valued, and they will move mountains for you. And gone are the days when you expect somebody to stay with you for 10 years, 15 years. Like this is my 18th year with Infosys. And my juniors in my organization, look, boss, he's not getting job anywhere else. He's like, and IT industry, if you are like 15, 20 years, you are seen like a museum product. They look at you with sympathy. Poor guy. Right? So that's how they see, because for them, for this current generation, it's about switching jobs from three. But I realized in the 18 years, every year, my boss was giving me something challenging or the other. And that kept me going. It's not the money. And there are, HR is a small, very, very small world. And you know how recruitment consultants will lure you. I don't even need to know your salary. I will just double your salary. Chauffeur-driven car. They give you a bungalow and all the stuff. They don't even tell you what role, what organization is all about. But people just don't jump jobs for that. Because I feel valued in this organization, and that holds good to any number of people who are spending good amount of years. In my view today, anybody who's working more than 3 years in an organization is bonus. If you've retained somebody for 3 years, I think you need to give them this, what you call long tenure award and all this stuff, milestone awards. After 3 years, it's all bonus in my opinion, sir. So get the basics right, treat people well, make them feel valued, they will stay with you.
Yeah. Sujit, 3 years seems to be a very high bar. I remember in one of my jobs, my manager said, "Oh, you showed up day 2, so we retained you now." So that was not as bad as I meant it to be. So I'm kind of going to close it now. It's been a long day.
Hello.
And
Is there a possibility of raising one more question? The question is for everyone on the corporate side of the.
no, all of us will answer, and these guys are going to shoot me down. So you need to pick who you want to ask the
I
question.
pick you, if that's okay.
No, we'll have everyone answer.
That's Raj for you. So the question is, we just spoke a lot about talent engagement and performance as well as retention. But is there a correlation between talent engagement, retention, performance, as well as culture and values? And can you give a few examples from your respective careers where that has worked? This is a lot of my CHRO clients keep getting bothered about this, so I was hoping to understand.
Many years ago, we were sitting in a review with Jeff Bezos. This happened in Amazon. And Jeff asked this question, and we were HR people. So the question he was asking is, if my customer can tell me what she thinks right now, why can't my employee tell me what from New York Times? And you all know the famous New York Times article that came. Now, so we said to him, you know what, Jeff, we do employee satisfaction surveys. We do that every year. And he said, oh yeah, I know, but how do we do it? So we pick some questions, and then we ask, we send it out, we give 30 days. In 30 days, it's about a 20% response rate. We extend it by another 30 days, it goes to 35%. We extend it another 15, and then by about 2.5 months, you have about 40% people saying. And then, we come back with the results. And then the management says, oh, you did not ask this question? Then we say, oh yeah, we will put a focus group discussion. So the employees are called back again, and then you're asking the same thing, and the employee is saying, what's wrong with you? You asked me a bunch of questions, I answered it, you don't know what to do, and then you're coming in doing a focus group discussion. And then at the end of it, you figure out what you want to do, but the next survey is already knocking at your door. So the thing was, how do you quickly go, know about what people want? Now, whether it has an impact to retention or not, I don't know, but much like what Sujit said, if I know what my employee thinks now, and I can fix it right now, I don't have to wait for a year. So that was a huge thing that Amazon did. Another one that they did, which I thought was very interesting. So they went and asked HR once. They said, tell me 2 things that will wow employees, but will not cost me anything. And we came out with all kinds of ideas. And then Jeff said, let me ask the employees. The employee said two simple things. They said, let me wear whatever kind of attire I want to wear to work and not be, tied up with a tie. And we said, oh, we'll do it everywhere. And the second thing they said, I want to bring my pets to work. Now, we said yes to it in Seattle, but we did not quite realize by pet, it could be a dog, which is what a lot of people think, but it could also be a snake. It could be a squirrel, it could be a cat. And then we kind of said, it has to be a dog. So there are a couple of things that you can do. You don't need to have a whole lot of analytics and data. Analytics and data help, but anecdotes also help a lot. And that's what I think, we figured out than just going behind numbers. The mic and can't speak anymore. It's my chance to kind of wrap it up. But it's been awesome the whole day today. And again, thanks to the Hosur chapter for hosting this. And I thought we heard a variety of diverse opinions from the panelists. Starting with Belinda to Sujit to Anand sir to Sanjay. I think the amount of deep expertise that was coming out, laced with punctuated humor from my left-hand side to a very spirited discussion on what should change onto my right. I think I enjoyed it. This was almost like being the umpire of a cricket match which Sachin Tendulkar and Virender Sehwag go to open. The best view is from being an umpire, which is what I think I had with all of you. Thank you very much again, panelists, and thank you all today.
I would like to call upon Anusha Narayanan Ashok Lailan to come on stage, hand over a memento to Mr. Sujit Kumar. Mr. Raja, Chairman of NIPM Chennai, would like to call upon the stage, hand over a memento to Belinda. Request you to hand over a memento to Anand Srinivasan. Mr. Nagarajan, GM HR Tab India, to hand over a memento to Mr. Raj Raghavan. Thank you once again for your valuable time, panelists and audience here. Stay in for the group photograph, please.
To the coordinator of this panel, I would like to invite Arumugam, MISS Chennai, Mr. Arumugam on stage, please. For Vijay Raghavan, let's give him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for a beautiful panel that he's put together. As these gentlemen are making their evening lucky, there's more fun for the rest of you who are sitting here. All right, the cocktail party starts in another 30 minutes, so you can go freshen up yourself and come to the lawn that's on to my right side. You'll have to use the exit here and come to the lawn number 1. The cocktail party will start by 6:45. The dinner follows. All right, for those of you who would like to start to Hosur now, you can contact the reception. All right, and there is a vehicle that leads to Hosur. And for those of you who are going to stay with us a little longer, enjoy the cocktail, enjoy the dinner, and then start. We have another couple of vehicles leaving by 9 p.m. All right, 9 p.m. You can go refresh on and then come back to the lawn at 6:45.
Yeah.